Scott, you spoke to the man who interrupted the assault on South Africa's Pelley nuclear plant. How does he describe what happened that night?
Well, Anton Gerber is a fireman and paramedic at the plant. He's worked at the plant for about 30 years, and he was working the overnight shift about a year ago when he heard a noise in the emergency control center. He looks through a door and sees 4 armed men coming at him. They get into a fight, a shot rings out, and Gerber ends up being shot through the chest. It's the beginning of an amazing story about the assault on the plant. It turned out that the 4 men who broke into the emergency control center had disabled the plant's 10,000-volt security fence, had disabled a system that would have alerted the security guards, and made their way all the way to the emergency operations center undetected. After Gerber was shot, the men fled. But there was more to the story. That wasn't the only assault team. There was a second team coming through the fence at the same time, but apparently they fled as well. The problem with all of this is that after a year-long investigation, the South Africans have not apprehended anyone, that is to say, they have not made a case against anyone. They have no suspects, they don't know who the men were, and they have no idea why the men were there. Most security experts who are involved in nuclear security, however, are concerned that the point of the whole plot was to get at the 1,000 pounds of highly enriched uranium at the plant, which could be used to make a nuclear weapon.
How does the South African government reacted to the attack?
Well, the South African government is trying to downplay all of this. In the interview that we did with them for 60 Minutes, they said that there was no evidence that the men were after the highly enriched uranium, that it might have been essentially a third-rate burglary where the men were breaking in to steal computers or office machines. It's a little bit hard to believe because Pelindaba is the most secure site in all of South Africa. There would be a lot of places it would be easier to break into if your goal was to steal office machines. All around the world, people who are experts in nuclear security believe that the assault was designed at going after the highly enriched uranium, even though the South Africans don't say that publicly.
And how did the plant's management respond to your covering the story?
We had an interesting time with the plant management, and you see part of this in the 60 Minutes piece. We talked with them about the assault team that entered the Emergency Operations Center. While that team was inside the EOC, there was another assault team that was breaking through the fence at another point at the plant. And I asked one of the plant managers what was happening with that second assault team, and he said, "You know, you talk in terms of teams as if these two things were related." And I say in the interview, "You mean you had armed gunmen on your fence line at 1 o'clock in the morning at 2 different places, and you don't think they're related?" And he said, "No, we don't have any reason to believe that they're related." So there is, in the sense of the world community and the people who specialize in nuclear security, there is this sense that South Africa is in a state of denial, and the highly enriched uranium at Pelindaba is not as safe and secure as the South Africans would lead the world to believe.